Alright, what's up guys, it's Heat. This is going to be the second video in the Path of Exile How to Defense video series. And in this video I'm going to talk about armor, I'm going to talk about evasion, and energy shield. Alright, so let's get started. So, the first one, armor. Alright, so what does armor do? Basically, armor mitigates physical attack damage. So it won't apply to resistances, to elemental damage. Only resistances will mitigate that. So we're talking about like physical bow attacks or physical attacks in general. So what it does is the higher the armor you have, the more it'll mitigate the damage. So basically, you get armor off your gear. Stuff like this helm has 168 armor, or these gloves have 96. You can also get it from the tree. Certain passives like this, Sentinel will give you 24% increased armor. This one gives you evasion as well, but you get the armor bonus from that. You can also get it. You can also scale it through gems like Determination. Determination is really good if you're going for a build with armor, because it gives you a multiplicative bonus to armor, 32% more armor. You can also get it through specific gems like Molten Shell, for example. Molten Shell will give you a flat armor rating. At level 1 it's 88. So that is how you get armor. Now, what is the strength of armor? Well, basically, it mitigates a lot of damage. What is the weakness? Well, it has diminishing returns. So what do I mean by diminishing returns? Alright, so basically that means that, for example, let's say I have 20,000 armor. There's a certain mitigation of damage that it'll have at 20,000. Well, now let's say I have 30,000. Well, from 20,000 to 30,000, the amount that it's going to mitigate is very small, and it will become smaller the higher it goes. So there's more mitigation from something like 8,000 armor to 20,000 than there is from something like 20,000 to 30,000. The other weakness is actually that it's actually really good in mitigating small to medium damage hits, but not really large hits. So there's some controversy behind that, and people say armor isn't good because of that, but I still feel armor is pretty strong because it provides a mitigation and is one of the only armor types that does so. One other weakness about armor is anytime you wear any chest piece or a shield, you have penalties to your movement speed. But when you have armor, and the higher armor is, I think there is a little bit, you get more and more movement speed penalty the more armor you have. So that's kind of a weakness to armor. Yes. What type of builds benefit from armor? Well, builds that are going to be in the heat of things, like melee builds that you're going to be taking damage, or be put into situations where you're going to be taking a lot more damage than, for example, like a bow build. You don't want to take damage, you stay on the outside, but a melee build, you get in, and there's more possibility for you taking damage, so you would probably benefit from using an armor-based build. Alright, so let's talk about evasion now. So what does evasion do? Well, basically it gives you a chance to evade attacks. Now, this does not apply to elemental damage. It only applies to physical attacks. So if we look here, my evasion rating is actually really low. It's 414, but that gives me a 7% chance to evade attacks. And by evade, basically you just you avoid taking the damage. Now the weakness to that is that basically you don't have any mitigation whatsoever. So if you're doing pure evasion and you take a hit, you're going to take full damage. None of that is taken away from mitigation. You're just going to take that damage, and it's going to hurt. So that is a weakness. A strength of it is you avoid it, and another strength is actually, this is quite interesting. What it does is, if you take let's say that an enemy hits you and it's considered a crit. Well, with evasion, what happens is actually it rolls twice for crit. So let's say you get crit. Mechanically, it's going to roll again for it, and it's going to determine whether that crit is going to be a crit or whether it's going to be a normal hit. So, for example, you take a crit hit, it's going to roll again. It's considered, yes, it's a crit. Well, if that's the case, you're going to take a crit hit. All right, so let's say you take a crit hit, and then it rolls again, and it says no. Well, that initial crit hit is not going to be crit anymore. It's going to be a normal hit. So that's a pretty interesting way to mitigate crit damage, and crit damage is really, really dangerous in this game. So that's a really nice advantage to using pure evasion. Now, what builds benefit from evasion? Well, basically, I would say builds that tend to be distance-based, and builds that you're probably not going to take a lot of damage. So bow builds, you know, spell casting builds where you're staying away from enemies and you don't take hits very often. Those are that would be pretty, you know, a pretty strong choice to go with. Now, how do you get evasion? Basically off your tree, like Sentinel. We saw this 24% increase evasion, and also from gear. For example, this piece of gear has 1583 evasion. You can also get it from a gem like Grace, and Grace is crazy because it gives you a flat addition to your evasion rating, so you can scale that really well with percentages off the tree, and that is how you get evasion. Alright, so let's talk about ES. ES is really interesting. So ES basically acts as another life pool. So if we look here in the lower left, I have 4100 life, and I also have 3500 energy shield ES. Now, this is crazy because what happens with energy shield and how it works is when you take damage, if you have any energy shield, it will take that damage away from energy shield before it goes to your life pool. So basically, it acts as a second source of life. As long as you have energy shield, it'll go there. The only exception is to that is chaos damage. So if you take chaos damage, unless otherwise specified, it will bypass your energy shield and go directly to your life. But for example, something like chaos inoculation, this keystone passive, you're immune to chaos damage, so you just won't take chaos damage. Or there are some unique, there's a unique chess piece, Solaris Lorica or Chevrons, which basically says that chaos damage will not bypass energy shield. So I mean, that's one weakness of it, but it's not too big of a weakness because there aren't a lot of damage sources in the game that are chaos, but you do have to be aware of that. Now, a strength of energy shield is basically that it gives you you can get a huge pool of energy shield. I've seen builds get up to 10,000 energy shield, so you have a lot of life to work with right there, because with life you probably are not going to get over 10,000 pure life, but you can get 10,000 energy shield, and that's a lot of life pool to work with. Gives you time to move around, avoid damage, and when you take damage you still have a lot of energy shield, so that's pretty strong. One interesting mechanic of energy shield is when you take damage, there's a cooldown to when it starts recharging. So basically, you take damage. Let's say I take 1,000 damage and I'm down to 2,500 energy shield. Well, there's going to be by default 6 seconds before I can actually use before it actually starts to recharge. Now that is the only way it recharges, with the exception of this gem called Discipline, Vol Discipline, which once you activate it, there's no, as it says in the description right here, and energy shield recharges are not delayed by damage. So that's pretty strong because it'll constantly go up as you're taking damage. You don't have to wait for that 6 seconds before your energy shield starts to replenish. The other way you can decrease that is through passives like Unnatural Calm, 15% faster start of energy shield recharge. and you can never have instant energy shield ES recharge because there is diminishing return. So the higher it goes, like the more difficult it is to reduce it beyond like 3 seconds. Alright, so the way you can get energy shield is off your gear, so that's one huge advantage. So for example, this piece of gear right here, energy shield 284, well that's basically 284 life, and that you can never get 284 life off just the life mod itself, like +1 maximum life. You'll never find plus 300 or plus 600 life. You can get ES chest pieces with like 600 ES on them. So ES is pretty strong. And you can also increase ES through discipline. So this basically increases by a flat base like evasion, like Grace did with evasion. Discipline gives you 237. You can get it off chest pieces, you can get it off armor, you can get it off the tree like Foresight. This gives you flat and energy shield based. You can also get it off jewelry. For example, this one has +24 to maximum energy shield. You also can now roll percent based on rings. So for example, if you pay 1 Exalt, you can get 5 to 20% increased energy shield on a ring. This is only through the master crafting. This didn't used to be available as a mod on rings. So that's actually really nice. The other advantage about using energy shield, and this is quite interesting, is it reduces your chance of getting stunned by 50%. And this is actually separate from anything that you have on the tree. So if you have something like Heart of Oak, this gives you 30% chance to avoid being stunned. Well, this is rolled separately from the 50% chance just from you having ES. Alright, so that was a video on armor, energy shield, and evasion. I hope you guys learned something. Check out the third video. I might get into some more intermediate, some advanced stuff on defense. Alright, thanks for watching.